3 months ago I started developing a minimalist 2D platformer, an idea that had been on my mind for a while. Now, finally, I have something to share with you all. Meet Leo the Square. Gameplay-wise, it's a classic platformer, where you jump on platforms and solve various puzzles to progress. There is no combat system, and it's not a Metroidvania. Levels are linear, with no backtracking. The gameplay becomes more complicated through level design. New obstacles emerge, along with variations in their quantity and placement. The game style is initially minimalist and simple, because I knew I would have to create almost all the art myself to save resources. The way the game looks is really important, so I'm trying to make it all fit together and look smooth. Before starting development, I set myself one simple goal: to release the game on Steam. Then I wrote a list of things I wanted to learn during development, such as designing gameplay, creating levels, making the main menu, gamepad support, achievements on Steam, uploading the game to different platforms, and adding initial updates. I agree with the statement of some game designers that 99% of success lies in releasing. Put simply, if you wait too long to start and aim for goals that are too hard, even the best idea won't become a reality. So, right from the start, I decided not to go for overly complicated ideas. Instead, I focused on figuring out what I could actually do within a realistic time frame. In terms of game sales, I set the following rating system for myself. Normal, any amount, as releasing the game itself is an achievement. Good, recap the initial $100 for a place on Steam. Great, earn more than $500. Excellent, earn more than $1000. The number of copies is approximate, as I'm not yet sure how much the game will cost and how much I will receive per copy. The idea for this project came while working on my previous game, Blix, which I put on hold because it turned out to be too ambitious. Initially, I wanted to create a game about shapes and their strange world. Something playful like Chuchel. Then I decided the main character would be a square, and for some reason I want to name him Leo. The game transitioned from initially very optimistic tone to something more mystical. Then I found my main reference, the game Thomas Was Alone. I liked how it aligned with my vision and realized it would be possible to create something similar. I also saw the game S, which appealed to me because of its simple visual style, yet it stood out in terms of gameplay and concept. Feel free to share any similar games you know of, I will be interested to check them out. Gameplay is based on constraints. Overall, I realized that this is an effective method for developing something interesting, especially after reading Jesse Schell's book The Art of Game Design, a book of lenses. I understand that it is one of the most well-known books on game design, but if you don't read it or haven't heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. It helped me understand that game development should be enjoyable, and perhaps most importantly, that any game is above all a new experience. While working on my previous game, I realized that the more abilities the player has, the harder it is to create a cohesive and interesting experience. Therefore, I decided early on that there will be no combat in this game, only platforming and puzzles. In the platforming itself, I also wanted simplicity. Here, the player can do a limited number of things: jump, wall jump, jump higher if you hold the button. As I mentioned before, the progression of difficulty is built through new obstacles, not new abilities. This is similar to how it's done in games like Super Meat Boy or Celeste. The game development process this time is more organized than before. I started with the rough concept of the game and set clear development goals. Basically, I answered the question, why am I making this game? Then I made a list of everything I want to include in the game, and I rated each item based on two criteria: how necessary it was for the game and how much time it would take. As a result, I removed the combat system, enemies, and complex camera systems. After that, I started keeping a journal, where I recorded every action related to game development. I began with character movement. I implemented it using Unity's new input system, so that the gamepad would work just as well as the keyboard. Initially, I had problems with the wall jump mechanic. At that time, I was returning to development after a long break and had forgotten most of my basic knowledge of C#. A friend of mine who once worked at Ubisoft and now works as a programmer at another game company helped me solve the wall jump issue. We met long ago when he attended one of my stand-up performances. We followed each other on social media but hadn't communicated much since then. I was glad he was willing to help and point out my mistakes, especially since this was only our second conversation. He also advised me on the right methods to solve problems. After our call, I started studying C# more seriously. From his advice and learning from my own mistakes, I realized that I shouldn't add code that I don't understand. So now, if I watch tutorials, I only watch those that explain everything in the simplest terms for me. This is important because the code often needs to be changed. In any case, I understand that I'm lucky to have someone to turn for help. Besides calls with my friend, lessons from Bob at Microsoft help me understand C# better. I appreciate that he explains things as if to children, unlike many people on YouTube, who assume you already know programming and will easily spot the mistakes they made a few times. Programming is fascinating, and to be honest, I initially thought it was more math-based. However, now I realized that it relies more on logic. One of the most valuable pieces of advice my friend gave me is to first visualize the entire logic of what you want to create. It's even better to describe it in words. Once you have this clear, it becomes much easier to understand what code you need to write to achieve your goal. My girlfriend came up with a character design. I just made some adjustments to it. She also created animations for character and made the Steam assets. Without her, it would have been just a colored square. I am very grateful to her. I liked how Leo turned out. I really wanted him to be unique and interesting, as the player will constantly see him on the screen and associate themselves with him. Getting the animations right in Unity was quite challenging, but somehow I managed to do it. Especially difficult was adding the jump animation in motion, as I had to correctly set up all the transitions between them. It turned out more or less okay, but I will tweak them a little bit more. At the moment I have implemented all the mechanics and have already started developing levels. I will provide more details about this process in the next devlog. I plan to regularly share development updates here, so that at least someone learns about my game. By the way, Leo already has a page on Steam, so please add a game to your wishlist there. Please leave comments about what you think of my game idea. Subscribe to the channel and hopefully we will see each other soon. Bye for now.